Welcome to Cooking for Damian. I'm former head chef Dan Kim, and I used to work at Wayne Manor before there was some embezzlement scandal. He lost everything, and I got laid off. But now I'm back in Bloodhaven, living with my uncle, and trying to make him vegan food, because back when I was over there, Wayne became vegan, and we had to prepare a bunch of dishes accordingly. And today, for today's recipe, we're gonna do one of Damian's favorite dishes, ramen noodles. He's a big fan of manga, he's always reading about those characters eating ramen all the time, and he likes to eat ramen really fast too, but he's vegan, right? And his favorite ramen used to be pork broth ramen, tonkotsu ramen, but no more of that, right? I wanted to recreate that flavor, and make that ramen again, but vegan. And it took me a while, but I figured it out, and the secret is cauliflower. That's the secret. So I don't make the ramen noodles, okay? Like I've done that before. It takes a long time. It takes a long time, and it's not as good as when I just buy it. So I got a pack of just the noodles from Sun Noodle. They make a great ramen noodle. This came from a Whole Foods, so you can get it different places. But if you can get just the noodle without the broth, that's good, unless you want that broth because you're feeling too lazy. But this tonkatsu broth, this vegan tonkatsu broth, not only is it delicious, it's super healthy because of cauliflower. So just open up the cauliflower, and we're gonna make the broth, because the broth is really the key to most ramens, the broth and the toppings, not necessarily the noodles. I mean, the noodles are important, but usually you get some factory to nail that down. The broth is all on you, right? Okay. So take the cauliflower, put it upside down, just cut around it. And just go towards the center, just move it around in your hand. All right. This you can toss. All right. Then we're gonna add onion. So onion is gonna add a nice sweetness to the broth and add another layer of creamy sweetness to this broth. Just chop it up. Give it a little more surface area. Just throw that in with the cauliflower. And then I got 6 cloves of garlic. These were frozen beforehand, so they look like this, but it's good anyway. It's all gonna be blended. So one of the tools that you probably don't have that you will need is an Immersion Blender. So I got one of these off Amazon. You can use a blender, but it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Rather, just roast this stuff in a pan, make the broth all in the pan, and blend it up, make a nice creamy tonkatsu-like broth, but it's made of cauliflower. And these are under 20 bucks. You can get these under 20 bucks online, so recommend getting one. And if you're vegan, you're gonna want this for like butternut squash soup, split pea soup, all kinds of soups, with protein packed soups. Get an Immersion Blender. They're pretty cheap. So also, I'm gonna add a little nub of ginger, okay? It's organic ginger, so I'm using a little less. If this was not organic, I would use a little more, but organic ginger has a lot more punch, believe it or not. It actually makes a giant difference if it's organic, as opposed to other things, but this is one of those things where organic makes a huge difference. So let's sear this up on the pan. All right, pan's hot, all right? So I'm gonna add some oil, got some olive oil here. Let's put it around there, not too much. I mean, a generous amount, but that'll be most of your fat actually, because believe it or not, tonkatsu broth can be really fatty, but this is, because it's cauliflower, it's almost fat free, so it doesn't matter if that's oil's there. So we're gonna put these greens here, all this stuff, and just let it roast, let it like really get a brown color, saute in there and get brown. That's what we want. In the meantime, we got some water here. It's already pre-boiled. We're gonna boil it again. This is the water that's gonna be most of the liquid in here. Got some dry shiitake and dry kelp. So these two ingredients, they can be had at an Asian grocery store, pretty cheap. So I'd recommend getting a bunch, because this really adds umami, a lot of depth of flavor. It gives a good meatiness to your vegan dishes. So I always recommend having this on hand and this on hand. Also, ramen broths, they tend to have sake in them, or mirin, or some sort of alcohol. You can use wine. I'm gonna use beer. I'm gonna use a little beer. Why? Because it's pretty neutral. Tastes pretty good. I use beer instead of wine all day long for all kinds of dishes. I don't think anyone can tell the difference actually, and it's very neutral. At least Budweiser, you know, it's neutral enough. All right. I also got some water boiling over here for the noodles. You know, you want to. It just takes forever to get that water boiling, but cooking the noodles is like 2 minutes or less. So just having that on hand. I already brought it up, so I'm just bringing it down. All right, so we've been roasting this for about 5 minutes on a high heat. It's got some good browning color, that's good. I'm gonna add some beer or any alcohol, you know. A quarter cup, third of a cup. And then I'm gonna also add the shiitake mushrooms, okay? The dry shiitake and the dry kelp. So this we're gonna remove later, okay? So we got 6 pieces. No, we got 5 pieces. So keep track. And then the pre-boiled water. Put that in there. All right. And we're just gonna let that boil. Just let it boil till it's like almost mush, but this can go for a while. So we're just gonna keep going. Close this. Over a medium heat. And then in like 10 minutes, I'll take out the kelp. 5-10 minutes. Kelp doesn't have to be there the whole time. Everything else stays in there, and everything else can be blended together, creates creamy, delicious broth. And I'll show you that part in just a bit. In the meantime, let's prep some of our toppings while we're waiting for that. So let's marinate some tofu, because we're not using pork, so we're gonna make some meat for the ramen, okay? The important thing is you gotta marinate tofu. You can just cook it, but it's gonna taste pretty bland. You marinate it, it's gonna taste very meaty. It's gonna taste really good. So always marinate it. So what I do is, I don't throw out this container, I keep the container. Just get the water out, most of it, okay? I'm just gonna cut it up to slices, which we'll use for the ramen dish. You know, people like char siu, but this is it's a pretty good alternative, but the key is marinating. And the thing about marinating tofu is that you need to do it for at least 15 minutes, and you don't have to do it for more than 15 minutes. 15 is a sweet spot where it will really absorb the flavors. All right, before cooking. So cut it up into sections. I got eight slices for the pack. I'm gonna use this container, put it right back in that container. All right. Now let's make a marinade. So this container is nice because it's almost the shape of the tofu, so you don't have to make too much extra marinade. For the marinade, you know, I'll use you can use a mushroom stock or veggie stock. This is you know, to make broth, or if you have vegetable broth, that's good too. If you don't have the broth, you might want to rely on these things, and you know, you could order this online. It'll last forever. This you can order, you can get it at Costco. Also lasts forever. So I'm gonna use the mushroom powder because this stuff's pretty good, pretty delicious. So use some of that, and that'll be the salt too, because this stuff has salt. Both of these have salt. Not gonna need much more salt, and then garlic powder is our friend. So a lot of garlic powder. All right, some pepper. Add some water. Stir that up, and we'll add a little soy sauce. A little extra umami flavor. All right. So I'm just eyeballing stuff. I don't know if it's gonna work, but it should be about enough. And if not, just add more water. Just get it in there. Add a little more soy on the top. All right. Once it's in there, just break up the sections a little so the marinade can get in between everything. All right, and we're just gonna let that sit for 15 minutes. All right, so you can add whatever toppings you want to ramen, okay? So I just grabbed stuff in the fridge that I'm gonna use. Got ear of corn, okay? Throw this in the microwave, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, start it, that's it. And that's it. I already did this in advance, so it's ready, all right? So that's ready. Got some oyster mushrooms. These are delicious. Oyster mushrooms are really good, especially if you get them browned and crisped up, all right? So to deal with them, just chop off the mycelium. This is the mycelium where it grew off of, the mycelial network. Just chop that off. It helps you break it apart. Just get that out of the way. And then just tear it up. Tear it up with your hands. All right, so I'm gonna tear it up and throw it in here. And if it's really wide, you might wanna break this in half too if it's really wide, but. All right, and I got some Shishito peppers that we're gonna use. We're gonna roast these a little bit as a topping too, Shishito peppers. So they're not really spicy. 1 out of 20 of them is spicy. And even if they're spicy, they're not that spicy. They're really meaty though, and they taste really good. Season, just olive oil, salt and pepper. Olive oil, salt and pepper. Same thing with the mushrooms. Salt, pepper, mushrooms, pepper, garlic powder. A lot of garlic powder. Can't really use too much. Same thing with this, garlic powder. Pepper, salt, and some salt. Just toss this. Oop. Okay. This I'll toss too. Still got some oil in there, so I'm gonna use that oil. I'm gonna throw in the mushrooms, okay? Got mushrooms in there. I'll use a little of that beer. All right, another thing about mushrooms, you know, these are oyster. They're getting more common, you know. You might think they're bougie, but use whatever mushroom you have. But, for the love of God, you know, pick the mushrooms. Get them by the weight. Don't buy the prepackaged mushrooms, because you'll find the prepackaged mushrooms, it's really just like 10 ounces, 8 ounces for $5, $6, right? These king oysters were $6 a pound, okay? So I can get 16 ounces for $6. Or I can get a 8-ounce pack for $6. Do the math, you know? A lot of these folks, they're not counting on you to actually sort it yourself, but you sort it yourself from the pile, weigh it out, you get exactly how much you need. It's fresher, and you get to pick better looking mushrooms, you know? And the portobellos, you can pop off that stem, you know? That's what, pop the stem off, you know? Just grab the caps. Anyway, always pick your mushrooms. Don't buy the prepackaged shit, because it's never good that way. And it's cheaper. It's cheaper to pick them. All right. So got a nice rich color. You see, you want that color, because that color is flavor. It's a Maillard effect. You want that flavor, that nice meaty flavor. All right. Great. These mushrooms are about ready. All right. So I'm gonna put them aside. I'm gonna put those peppers. Got a pack of peppers. This is all from Trader Joe. And this is much faster, so this, couple minutes. You just want it to blister. You want the skin to blister, you know? You don't want to cook it too much because it gets soft, and you want to still have some texture, you know? You just put on a dry pan, a little oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and just let it blister a little. So easy. It's so easy to make this. And it's a great snack. These are great snacks to eat. You know, you don't need cream cheese. You don't need any dips. Just this. Just roast it, eat it, snack on it. Have fun with it. And it's much healthier than jalapeno poppers. Again, no cheese, because Damian's vegan. You know, it's not that expensive. It's just vegan cooking requires a lot of knowledge that people don't have, so they don't know what to do. But overall, I do think it's cheaper. It's cheaper to eat this way, believe it or not. I know there's like a misconception that it's a privilege to eat vegan food. And yeah, I guess so, if you don't know how to cook. But once you know how to cook and you invest in the pantry, it's really cheap as hell. It's much cheaper than eating meat dishes, I'll tell you that. And you know, I'm gonna go over that too. I'm gonna do a pantry video soon about the things you need to invest in for your pantry to cook vegan food every day. and how much money you save doing it that way. Very nice. Very nice. So that's done. Turn this guy off. Alright, so we got the Marinate Tofu from earlier. Been marinating for about 15 minutes. Got the pan, it's hot. Alright. Put some oil in that pan. About medium heat, a little over medium heat. Let's add some oil. Right, good amount of oil because we're gonna be frying up this tofu, making a delicious vegan char siu. Get that marinated tofu in there. So I find for a whole pack, it's better to do this like daisy pattern. Do that first flip. Do about 5 minutes. All right, now it's been roasting here for some time, and it's been about 10 minutes, and it's ready. All right, let's take them out. All right, so I got that corn from the microwave. Again, 5 minutes. Cool down a lot, let it cool down, because it's actually crazy hot when you first take it out. So, all right, so I peel that and just cut down the sides. All right, so this broth's been cooking the whole time while we're prepping all those other ingredients. These can go as long as it wants, but just want to make sure it's going. All right. All right, so that broth is about done. Gonna take the Immersion Blender. Just gonna stick it in there. So that's the beauty of this thing. And if you throw it in a blender, it's just really dangerous. You can get really dangerous, but do it like this. All right, I'm gonna add some soy sauce to this. All right, I'm gonna put a little soy sauce. And if it's too thick, you add some water, you know? All right. Let's taste this broth. This is your tonkotsu broth. So if you've ever seen a really good pork bone broth, it's this kind of texture, this kind of color. I think I could process this a little more, but just taste it. All right, so we're gonna cook the noodles. So this is the fastest thing in the whole thing, is just the noodle part. These are frozen, so you might need an additional minute, but I'm gonna cook them for about 2 minutes, maybe a little more. If you don't have access to Sun noodles, because not everybody has access to this stuff, you can always use the cheap noodles, cheap ramen, you know? Anything's better than those flavor packets. It's just chemicals and shit. And also, I'm telling you, this soup, it's kind of healthy. Pour some of my broth, all right? That's the cauliflower tonkotsu broth. The meat broth, all right? Pork bone without any pork or bones, all right? All right, so I'm gonna pour the soup in advance. Pour that soup in there. The ramen's done. Strain it off. All right. Put some noodles in there, so put the noodles in the broth. All right. Put some of the corn. Anyway, more Brussels sprouts, better. Mushroom, tofu, slice it up, 2 for each, some peppers, and that's it, that's a wrap. Oh yeah, that tastes like pork. God, I swear to God, it tastes like pork. But it's vegan. Oh yeah, it's vegan, bitches. All right, so that's it. Hope you liked the video. This ramen is about done, ready to serve. Yeah, and it tastes like pork. Tastes a lot like pork. You wouldn't believe it. You would never know if I didn't tell you. But the trick is cauliflower. And whatever else you have laying around the house, just throw it in there and make a delicious ramen. And use instant noodles if you don't got the fresh stuff, it's all good. If you like this recipe, please share it. Share the secret of the cauliflower tonkotsu broth. And if you like the video, like and subscribe, you know, and yeah, hopefully, you know, let me know about anything else you want to learn about how to cook, and I'll do something about coffee too, but whatever I did back at Wayne Manor back in the day, and yeah, enjoy your lunch, folks. Take care.